For my project, I picked the theme Do Something, and what I'll be doing is making a bee garden in my own backyard. In this video, I will be demonstrating the beginning of that process and share with you some bee facts and what we can do to help the bees. There are 20,000 species of bees all around the world. They help to pollinate and reproduce plants, which is essential for most of the crops we eat. 35% of those crops are completely reliant on bees, meaning that crops such as almonds wouldn't exist without bees. Another fact is that bees increase coffee income in Costa Rica by $60,000 a year. Without them, farmers would have very little money to support themselves and their families. Not only would farmers be affected, but we would also lose flowers and forests, which are very important to the ecosystem. The western honeybee is the bee that is mostly responsible for pollinating crops. It is managed typically by farmers and breeders, making it a domesticated honeybee. Farmers began noticing that the western honeybee was suffering from something called colony collapse disorder. This is caused by viruses, pesticides, and parasites, which causes entire bee colonies to completely fall apart and die. Because the western honeybee is considered domesticated and is taken care of by farmers and breeders and buyers, the population is mostly controlled, and the real worry is with the wild honeybees. Wild pollinators such as beetles, wasps, wild bees, and butterflies are all suffering from things such as habitat loss from construction, pesticides, and climate change. Some wild bees are already on the endangered list, such as carpenter, honeybees, and bumblebees. So lastly, we're going to get into what you can do personally to help the wild bees. This is a short list of flowers you can put in your bee garden. On UConn's website about bees, you can find an entire list of trees and shrubs and much more flowers that is attractive for bees and really good for bees. So before we get into looking at flowers, I want to look at solitary bee nests. So this is a couple examples of what solitary bee nests look like. Here's an example of one that has cappings on it. So the ones that aren't open, they look like they're on the outside, and those ones are probably all done. The bees are done using them, and they have put their cocoons in there, which will open up next season. So there will be more bees. So by providing a solitary nest, you're providing a habitat for bees to live in and repopulate, which is super great. So this is another example. This is the recommended version because it's nice and open. It can be cleaned out. It doesn't get infected as often as versions with the block of wood. So the block of wood is just as good, but the one with the rolls in it are preferred. So some flowers we have here are the blazing star, the veronica, the cosmos flower, which are very pretty, and the goldenrod. These are spring and summer flowers, and having different flowers for different seasons is important so that you make sure that the bees have what they need until winter, where they go almost dormant. Also, having a pop of color in your garden is super important because bees can't really see neutral colors. They see really bright colors. So when there's bright colored flowers, it's easier for them to find their food and the pollen so that they can pollinate. This is a black-eyed Susie, which is one of the flowers I plan on planting in my garden, and this is the cone flower, which I've already started to grow, which was demonstrated in my video before this. These are some examples of fall plants. This is a Mexican sunflower, this little red one here. This yellow one here is a Maximilian sunflower, and this purple daisy looking one is aster. This little white one is snake root, and this white one is just regular daisy, and I forget what this purple one was called. But like I said before, having different flowers for different seasons is important so they have food and pollen all throughout these seasons.